What's good, everyone? This is Dr. Nee Darko. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below so that you're always up to date on the new uploads as well as alerts on this show. The other thing that you can do to help build this community is make sure you leave a comment below. Let us know what you like, what you don't like about the show, and ultimately, let us know who's winning these arguments, because I need to know that I'm beating Renee in these debates. Run the tape.
Kiara, they do.
What else we got on deck? What we got on deck?
All right, so I wanted your thoughts on. Wow, my brain is drawing a blank. Hold on.
That happens to me all the time.
We can hear those wheels turning.
Reddit. So you had pulled up a post a little while ago about being fulfilled. How doctors should stop being looking to be fulfilled by medicine. Did you want to read the entire Reddit?
Yeah, you want to read the...
Can I bring it up on stage? Are you ready for me?
Yes.
Oh,
make sure you clear up your desktop, you know.
Get out of here.
So can we please talk more about how we should stop looking to be fulfilled by medicine? Someone writes, I'm slowly starting to understand that the root cause of my residency depression stems from having believed for what feels like forever that I was supposed to be fulfilled by my choice of specialty medicine in general. It sucks to be in your 30s now and realize that if medicine itself is the sole reason I'm supposed to feel fulfilled, then, well, I'm not going to be fulfilled. Even worse is being a single woman in your 30s. That's where this comes from. Them eggs. In the Midwest, realizing this because options for many family partnership are so scant. Lol. But that's a personal problem. So tell me about when you realize you are a complete person outside of medicine and that being a doctor is still just a job. I don't know what ETA means. Is that
Edited to
estimated? Add. Oh, I was like,
what
estimated time of arrival?
Edited to add.
Some people are reading this and interpreting it as me saying it's not a fulfilling profession. What I said was that it doesn't fulfill me, not that medicine isn't itself fulfilling. They're different. Think about it. Boom.
Do we have a name for that? Since we
they didn't write it to us, but it's in.
I mean,
we don't have to give their name. It's just in the residency. It's just in the residency thing there. We're not going to give the name. So
you should get somebody.
No, we're not. That's not credit. We're just reading what they have to say.
Exactly.
All right. So what say you, Renee?
First of all, I did not write that. So I think the writer makes a very good point. I think that a lot of people go into medicine and other professions thinking, once I get into this, I'm going to be fulfilled, right? Like, okay. The other day we were talking about this and you guys were you were actually talking about The Pit, that new show, The Pit. And I was asking you because you were like, yeah, it's really real and it's really raw. And I said, well, does it have that kind of like, I'm a doctor and I'm just going to heal and that's what I'm going to do because that's what I meant to do all my life, And I feel like sometimes people think they're going to go into medicine and they're going to have a Grey's Anatomy moment or an ER moment or I don't know, name your medical TV show here. Like there's this new TV show called Doc. And there's a point at which, in the trailer, she was like, basically healing is what I do best. And I'm going to get back to that, and I'm just like, that doesn't happen. And it's probably never going to happen for you, not in that way. So if you're looking to your profession to be fulfilled, then you might be sorely disappointed, and I think that there has to be more to fulfillment than just, I'm going to complete this degree and complete this training. I don't know. I don't think that the writer is wrong at all. So
I agree. And I feel like, even the fact that she's mentioned her age, I feel like there's a lot of expectations for us as people, not just as women, but as people to have our shit together by, our 30s. It's like, why am I dying in the next 10 years? I mean, I could, but realistically,
right.
Why do I have to have it figured out by 30? Like, am I not going to make it to 60? Like, who's to say? Like, there are plenty of people who change directions several times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's your thought, Nee?
About what she said?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, my vision has changed on it because now I'm 46 and I'm looking back now. You know, especially when I'm looking at kids now who are not going into medicine, who are, you know, let's say they're trying to figure it out, right? Like I look at my own nephews and nieces who some of them are trying to figure it out versus when I compare it to what I wanted to do. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I think they have it harder now, particularly if you're not knowing if you want to go into like medicine or law or maybe even engineering, because outside of those three things, like if you follow a certain path, you're going to be a doctor. If you follow a certain path, you're going to be a lawyer or you're going to be an engineer, or whatever, you know exactly what you want to be. There's a structured plan to that. But when you're not sure exactly what you want to do and you know you want to go to college and you want to get a degree and so forth, it's really difficult to kind of figure out what you want to do. So you have to like figure out your purpose a lot earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you think that you know what you want to do, which you think equates to what your purpose is, which equates to you what your fulfillment is. So you're fulfilled maybe through the path of trying to get into medical school. You're fulfilled and you think you have purpose while you're in med school and in residency. And then you start to see like the realities of being a doctor when you get showcased into residency or you get this showcased to you as an attending. You're like, wait, it's not what I asked for. This is not what I bargained for. This is not what I thought it was going to be like. And I think in essence, it becomes like this existential crisis of like, I'm not fulfilled. And is the end product, which is me being a doctor, is that really what I want? And is that really what's going to fulfill me for the rest of my life?
Right.
And I think that's in essence what that Reddit post is being a doctor alone enough to say, hey, you've accomplished everything in your life and you're satisfied at this point. And I think a lot of people are like, yeah, no. But I think that was the same way 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It's just that now being a doctor is really, as I tell a lot of people, like, we don't want to say it, but it's almost like a blue collar job at this point, right? It's like, you know, it's at the upper echelon of that. But in essence, it's a job that you check in and you check out. You don't own your patients, particularly if you work for a hospital.
Somebody tell you what to do.
You don't own your patients, you know, and you work with your patients still. It's still a great job. I love it. It's fulfilling. It's a profession, but, you know, it's not the end all be all that I think a lot of people think about. And I think that we have to be a lot more open about that and having these type of discussions. And I'm glad that it came up on the Reddit post. But in that TV show, The Pit, or even in ER, I always got that sentiment. Like, it was just like, this is very gritty, right? Like being a doctor or going through the process is a very gritty process. And the end goal, you're super focused on that, but you got to know that at the end, like, you're going to have to do something else afterwards. You can't just rest on the laurel of, I became a doctor and yes, I made it and that's it. It's like, all right, well, you know, what other tricks can you do?
Right.
So I definitely get it. Like if you're a woman who's delayed having children and now you're in your mid 30s and you're getting close to AMA, it's going to be really shocking and jarring. Like we went through that and stuff. Right.
That was your fault though.
Is it my fault? For the sake of the podcast, should we delve into that? Guys, we need some ratings.
Should have married me sooner.
Let's skip that.
There you go.
I have
That's
a question.
On our Patreon page. Yeah.
So
What's your question?
When it comes to being fulfilled, whether it's by medicine or any other profession, do you think that any of it has to do partially with the conditioning of society in general? Where we're conditioned to believe like you need to have, you know, a 6-figure job and, you know, in order to be happy and fulfilled, you need to meet these certain criteria and the expectations and whatnot. Do you think that plays a role?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, let's be real, right? 50 years ago, the society's goal of you making it was white picket fence, house, you know, 2.5 children.
And a dog.
And, you know, working at GM or working at a car company and having like a, what kind of job is that? A union type job, right? And then modernization occurs, globalization occurs, and that's falls to shit. And now it's something else, right? Like you look at my kids right now, they want to be a YouTuber, right? Like my son, my
He
oldest
wants
son,
to drive Uber.
he wants to either drive Uber or he wants to be a YouTuber because that's freaking glamorous to them, right? That's what they see on TV. That's what they see on YouTube. That's what they, so it's literally what society puts out there is what we're going to value the most, right? So that's how I feel. I believe, yeah. I think that the nostalgia that we have with doctors, that's gone.
It's waning.
It's gone, right? Like there's a show, I got to look it up. What's his name? I forgot his name, the lung doctor. I forget what his name is, but he's is it Dr. Jarrett?
No, it's not Jarrett. Judd. Rudd.
Yeah.
Judd Rudd.
Anyway, my man's has got a podcast.
Oh my God, I don't know why I just had a brain fart for his name.
He's got a podcast that's coming out. He's a good guy. He's got a podcast coming out, and it's basically him and a co-host. It's going to be on video, and it's also going to be on audio, and it's like medicine explained. And basically, they're going to debunk all these myths and all these different things. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, this show will do really good. But I'm like, damn, the fact that we actually need this show is very telling, right? And I was thinking, I was going to leave him a message, but in my mind, I'm like, is this show even going to do well, right? Because people don't trust doctors anymore. People don't trust medical institutions anymore unless you're in an absolute emergency, right? Or unless you actually need to buy into the system, then they'll trust you. And even then, they don't even 100% trust you.
Well, that's because we have access to information.
Correct. But it's a very interesting place to be. When I saw that, I was like, man, like he's going to create a show where they're debunking certain things. First of all, why would someone even believe them? Right? Like they're just saying whatever they're saying. And granted, they're doctors. I believe them. But the question is, will the general public actually believe them? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, I think so. That's the power of that show, that kind of show is that there will be lots of debate, right? Because there will be people who don't believe them, but then there will be people who do, right? So I think, we're kind of like on a half and half, where you have half of society, or at least this society, that really believes in doctors. And then you have the other half that's just like, nah, they get kickbacks from, your prescriptions. I'm like, really? Tell me where to sign up, because I ain't getting nothing yet. But, so I think we're half and half. But to your question about...
do you believe some of that stuff is true? Because it's like, some of these things that we are questioning now, like some of that stuff is based on truth. Like, how like now, like it's really cool for like the right to like question the FBI and stuff. But it wasn't cool like back in the 80s when black people were questioning the FBI. Like, yo, you bringing crack cocaine into Los Angeles, and nobody wanted to believe all this stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody wanted to believe any of this stuff.
Now it's like you're bringing crack cocaine into the hood.
And now because it's like Uber, because it's like Uber, like Vogue now to like question FBI. Everybody wants to question FBI. Yeah. Like, damn, didn't y'all see Snowfall? Like, come on, I'm serious. Like, right? We've been saying the FBI been crooked for years, for decades. Damn.
No, but to your question about, to your previous question. Yeah, well. To your previous question, I think, especially for women, right? The thing about women, especially those who want to go into medicine, oftentimes, not every time, but oftentimes the dictum is wait until you have finished everything possible in your career and then pursue very seriously anyway a relationship. You could be in a relationship.
Who's saying that though?
I'm saying that this is kind of like that part of society, right? That, that has kind of a hold on women basically going into medicine or these types of professions that are considered, high powered or at least take a lot of education, right? Don't get derailed by that man in your life. Don't let him impregnate you, otherwise you won't finish and then you'll be dependent on him and you're an independent woman and that's the way it's supposed to be, right? You're
society?
A 90s girl.
Is that society speaking?
It is society.
I'm asking, is society or is that like self-imposed
society.
From women on their own?
No, that's society.
That's society.
Think about it.
In order for
your
women
mother
to
told
equally
you
compete with men, we have to put ourselves on the same level. So men aren't out here getting pregnant and putting their careers on pause. We do. We get pregnant. We have to put our careers on pause. So in order to keep it balanced, we have to put that side to the side.
Exactly. Your own mother told you, right? Just go to school. Don't worry about anything. Just go to school, finish, become a doctor first. And what did you do?
I became a doctor first.
Exactly.
But isn't that so? But okay, but that point would just be saying that message is equal, right? Because I get the message just as I don't know if you got the message.
You got that message.
Right.
You got that message, but a lot of men are not necessarily getting that message.
My kid's gonna get that message.
Okay. A lot of men are not necessarily getting that message.
But would that message be the same message you tell your daughter? Because technically, daughters we are women in general are on a biological time clock.
I tell my niece the same thing.
Right. So
don't get hemmed up by no dude.
But then why are you asking the question, Nee?
But I guess from my standpoint, it's like, isn't that
It's not. I don't think it's very equal.
Okay,
I think, and this is why I said many women, not all, but many women, especially those that are headed in careers that take a lot of time to attain, a lot of education to attain. It's like, no, stay laser focused, because if you get pregnant, right? If let's say you got a girl pregnant in med school, right? Let's say that happened. How does that affect your career?
Majorly.
But how? You would have to drop out?
Possibly.
What's the likelihood that you would have to drop out? What's the the likelihood? Like, I mean, from 0 to 100,
I mean, there's a lot of different factors, right?
100% you would have to drop out.
So, okay, first of all, is the girl in med school with me? Is the girl not in med school?
Let's say you got me pregnant in med school.
So then you're in med school too, right?
Yes, I'm in med school too.
You more than likely would be taking time off to be with the child, right?
Either pregnancy complications, or I got to stay with the child, or, something.
Well, I think the big thing would be then, would we be able to sustain some type of housing, food, all those different things?
But you had loans.
Hold on.
You were living on loans.
Can I do that on the loans, right?
Okay.
Can I do that on the loans, right? Because it all depends on how much you take out, right? Like if you're taking a minimum amount,
I need to take a step back for a second. So you're thinking as 40-something-year-old me with logic. I need you to go back to what?
Right.
20-something-year-old
me, 24-year-old me.
That was paying for stuff off my loans.
Right. So
that's what I'm trying to figure out. So now,
me.
Right. So now I got
out.
Right.
It's possible.
I doubt it, because I knew him when he was 24, and there was no way in hell this man was going to drop out of medical school. No way. There is no way in hell you would have dropped out of medical school. Nope. Absolutely
not.
If
you had a child?
If I had a child in medical school, you would not have dropped out.
I would have tried to figure out a way to stay in, right?
You would have.
That's possible, yeah.
It's not possible. That's what it is.
But my question then is, so then what if there's no way to pay for food, formula, all those different things? Because there's a point where like your loan check is your loan check,
but
right?
But first of all,
we would go on WIC or something like that.
Exactly.
Right.
There's right. If it came to that point, right? Let's just assume that we would have had no family support. Let's assume, right? Because I don't think that's what would have happened.
You wouldn't have had family support.
I would have had a lot of family support. I would have had a lot of family support. No, you wouldn't have had family support.
I would have family support.
Because they would be like, stupid boy. What stupid boy? You let this girl get you hemmed up, as they say.
This Haitian girl.
She's Haitian. She's Haitian too. Oh, nee. That's how your mother would have said. Anyway, he's laughing.
I hope she's not listening.
Because he's thinking,
because
he's thinking about it. He's like, yo, she's not wrong.
Oh my God.
Right, so let's get back to the topic. So
the point being that there's a very, very unlikely chance that you would have dropped out of school and that that your career would have been majorly affected. Whereas for me, my career would have been much more affected, right? Because you're talking about the responsibility of raising a child. I'm talking about the actual, being pregnant, right? Me being pregnant would not affect you in any way, shape, or form. Not physically, not socially. Well, maybe socially. If I told everybody you was the baby daddy.
We're not talking about that, but I mean, I think.
But that's what you're talking about. We're talking about there are many more implications, to being pregnant, right? So, yeah, you're talking about food, housing, clothing, all this kind of stuff. Those things are very important, but we're not talking about, the condition of being pregnant, the complications that potentially come with being
So would you have
pregnant.
dropped out if you were pregnant?
I don't know. I actually don't know.
What would be the percentages if you could go back?
I would have to say it would be 50-50. I really don't know what I would have done if I
would
had
you done a
baby.
sabbatical? You probably would have just done a sabbatical. So that's not really jumping out.
Well, that's the
Not a
thing with
sabbatical, but
sabbaticals, right? A lot of people who take sabbaticals don't
come back. Right. So you come back, you try, you take a leave of absence.
Now I got a child.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a child with a baby mama who got debt. So.
But we're not married, so what's the big deal? We're not married. We weren't married.
I'll tell you. How about
and
I
I
tell
wouldn't
you?
have married you.
I share my version. Maybe Nee will understand a little bit better. So
here we go. I had a month. She's going to drop the bomb. She's going to drop the bomb on us. Here we go.
I had 3 months left of my bachelor's. I lived in Hawaii. David, my husband, moved down to Florida. I had my son with me. At this point, I found out I was pregnant August 2018. Completely unexpected. I was on birth control, whatever. In my mind, I had a vision, right? I'm going to graduate. I'm going to pursue either further education or a job. Okay. I end up pregnant. David and I meet up again in December. I'm about 20 weeks, right? I'm starting to show because this is my second pregnancy. You show a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would hire me.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would hire me because they knew for a fact that, I would go on maternity leave at some point.
Right.
I actually didn't have a job from when I graduated all the way up until I started freelancing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was only, I freelanced because I couldn't get a job. Nobody would hire me.
Right. Right.
It did not affect my husband at all.
Right.
Me being pregnant did not affect him at all. He got up, he went to work, he lived his life, he promoted, he woke up and did his... Me being pregnant did nothing for him except add another mouth to feed, obviously.
Right. Exactly. Once the baby came.
I respect that. Thank you for sharing that.
And not even once the baby came so much. Well, could be once the baby comes, depending on how you decide you're going to feed this baby.
She breastfed for 3 years, for almost 4 years.
Right. If you breastfeed, then that's another obligation that you have.
And we got to deal with your feet and all that stuff. Like, oh my God.
What are you complaining about, Nee? What are you complaining about? Listen, you invited us to the show.
Anyway.
Exactly.
All right. So back to the...
So you got to feed this kid until he's like 3 years old.
Back to this topic. So I get your point. I respect that. But I do. So I think in general, what did you want?
Well, the last thing, the point I was making from this whole conversation before it started was that, fulfillment comes, I think, from a lot of things, and it can't just come from one thing. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of women actually make. Once they realize that, wait a minute, there are other things, and men do this too, but I can only speak from a woman's perspective, that once they realize that I've finished down this path of attaining this career and I want other things, and I'm still not necessarily fulfilled, sometimes, depending on where they are and how old they are, it actually might be too late, or it might be very challenging for them to reach that. So I think for the women out there, just, be very careful about thinking that you're going to be fulfilled only by your career, because that's very unrealistic. And I think Doc G, Jordan Grummett, the previous episodes that you had with him, it kind of talks about purpose and, what is meant by purpose, and the small P in purpose versus the large P in purpose. I think you got to be really, really careful about that.
No doubt. No doubt. Kiara?
What you got to say?
No, I'm good. I'll leave it as.
Yes.
It'd get me in trouble.
Did we beat this horse to death?